The moon hung high in the cold, silent sky as a hunter trudged through the dense forest. His rifle slung over his shoulder, he scanned the dark woods for prey. But instead of the usual rustle of game, a faint whimper reached his ears, a sound so fragile it seemed to shatter the heavy silence. Cautiously following the sound, the hunter came upon a small, trembling wolf cub nestled in the roots of an old tree. Its tiny, frost-covered body shook with each shallow breath, its eyes barely open. For a moment, he hesitated. A wolf cub wasn't what he'd set out to find. Yet something about the pitiful creature tugged at him. Without a second thought, he wrapped it in his coat and carried it back to his village. Back home, his 7-year-old son, Elias, was enchanted. "Can we keep him, Papa?" Elias asked, his eyes wide with excitement. The hunter, who rarely had time for sentiment, found himself nodding. "But remember," he warned, "a wolf is not like a dog." The cub, which Elias quickly named Kale, was allowed to roam freely in the house, his wild instincts hidden beneath his small, fluffy exterior. Elias and Kyle became inseparable. The boy spent hours playing with the growing wolf, oblivious to the wild glint in its eyes. For Elias, Kyle wasn't just a pet, he was a companion, a secret he proudly showed off to the other village boys. Having a wolf cub as a friend gave Elias a sense of pride and importance. But as Kale grew, so did the signs of his untamable nature. His playful nips became more aggressive, and his sharp teeth reminded everyone that he was no ordinary dog. By the time Kale reached adolescence, the hunter decided it was no longer safe to let him roam freely. The wolf was moved to a wooden enclosure at the edge of the property, much to Elias's dismay. Kale's confinement didn't last long. One stormy night, the wolf broke free, leaving behind nothing but shattered wood and paw prints in the mud. Elias cried for days, calling out Kale's name into the forest, but the wolf never returned. To comfort their son, the hunter and his wife brought home a puppy, a loyal, affectionate creature that filled the void Kale had left. Yet deep down, Elias never forgot his wild companion. Years passed, and Elias grew into a lanky teenager, his days now spent wandering the forest and dreaming of adventures. But this winter was harsher than most. Food was scarce, and the village buzzed with stories of wolves venturing close to human homes, desperate and dangerous. Late one evening, as Elias made his way home through the snow-covered paths, he felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. A low growl broke the stillness. Turning slowly, he saw them, burning eyes glowing in the darkness. A pack of wolves emerged from the shadows, their breath visible in the icy air. The village dogs had already fled, leaving Elias alone. The leader of the pack, a massive gray wolf with piercing yellow eyes, stepped forward, his movements calculated and predatory. Elias's heart pounded as he realized the wolves were encircling him, their snarls growing louder. His entire life flashed before his eyes. He was certain this was the end. No one would come in time to save him. As the leader wolf approached, Elias braced himself for the attack. But then, something extraordinary happened. The wolf paused, its sharp ears twitching. It tilted its head, sniffing the air. Slowly, it moved closer, its gaze fixed on Elias. The boy closed his eyes, expecting the worst. Instead, he felt a warm breath on his hand. Opening his eyes, he saw the wolf standing mere inches away, its expression softening. The creature sniffed him again, its tail giving the faintest wag. Elias couldn't believe it. It was Kyle. His childhood companion had returned, now a powerful leader of the wild. Kale turned to the other wolves, letting out a commanding growl. To Elias's astonishment, the pack retreated, disappearing into the forest one by one. Kale lingered for a moment, his yellow eyes meeting Elias's. There was a flicker of recognition, a silent acknowledgement of the bond they had once shared. With a final glance, Kale followed his pack into the shadows. When Elias stumbled back to the village, he struggled to explain what had happened. "Kale saved me," he told his parents, his voice trembling with both fear and awe. The hunter, initially skeptical, grew quiet as Elias described the wolf's behavior. He had always warned his son that a wolf could never be tamed, yet Cale's actions spoke of something far deeper: loyalty that transcended time and distance. The story spread through the village, becoming a tale of wonder and gratitude. Cale was never seen again, but his memory lingered in Elias's heart. Each winter, as the snow fell and the wolves' howls echoed through the forest, Elias would pause and listen, hoping to hear the familiar sound of his old friend. Cale's incredible act of loyalty proved that bonds forged in love and trust could endure even the wildest of circumstances. Though their paths had diverged, the connection between Elias and Cale remained unbroken, a reminder that even the wildest hearts could hold a place for kindness and friendship.